The point of this is to be provocative. There's something exciting going on around the world. It started in Brazil. It's called participatory budgeting. We have with us Alderman Joe Moore from Chicago. But what it is a really exciting idea, and Springfield deserves the chance to think about it, consider it, and think about what it would mean for really engaging citizens, all residents of Springfield. And then we also have the opportunity to think about the region, Holyoke and beyond. So,
participatory budgeting was a model that was first created in the late 1980s and early 1990s in the city of Porto Alegre. And because of the success there, has spread not just throughout Brazil, but also throughout several continents, to now exist in over 1,000 municipalities in the world. So this is something that has recently hit North American shores, and first was in Canada, and then Alderman Moore's district in Chicago was the first district in the United States to implement this model of participatory budgeting. So
just about every city in the United States has various processes for soliciting community input. You have community meetings and hearings where people come and give testimony. You take many cities take surveys to get their finger on the pulse of what people are thinking. But in terms of of spending capital dollars, there's no jurisdiction in the United States that I'm aware of that actually gave people the actual power by direct vote to decide how a portion of the city budget should be spent, until we did it in Chicago last year. If you have an open and transparent process, and everyone is involved, it's far more likely that the decisions made are going to be made in a fair and equitable fashion based on the needs of the local residents. I think all of you, particularly you elected officials, know that you have your regulars who attend all the community meetings. You see them all the time. They're the active members of the community. I certainly have them in my neighborhood. What was great when we implemented participatory budgeting is we had all new faces coming to these meetings, people who had never been involved in the community before becoming involved. If this is done right, it's done in an open, transparent fashion, and when it's the community members who decide in open meetings, in open elections, there's less opportunity for favoritism, there's less opportunity for corruption, there's less opportunity for government waste, and quite frankly, from an elected official's point of view, there's less possibility for political backlash. In addition to being at least 16 years of age or older, you did not have to be a registered voter, you didn't have to be a citizen. All you had to do was demonstrate residency in the 49th ward. Here's an example of the ballot. I invite you to, if you haven't done so already, there's copies of the ballot that was used in last year's election on the table.
En nuestra experiencia nos muestra que en las partes más ricas o más prominentes de las ciudades, donde va la mayor parte de la inversión pública, sin embargo, en las zonas más pobres, como donde viven nuestros miembros, hay muchas necesidades todavía sin atenderse. Vecino a vecino consideramos que esta desigualdad no es solamente injusta, también es, sino además, insostenible, y queremos que nuestras ciudades progresen en lugar de declinar o decaer. Nosotros pensamos que la estrategia del presupuesto participativo son una herramienta muy importante, muy especial para reducir la desigualdad y empoderar a la comunidad, y la apoyamos con entusiasmo.
What I did like is the concept of democracy and citizen involvement. As folks here probably know, I was one of the ones that led the effort to get ward representation in the city of Springfield. And the reason I did that was because I believe sincerely that we as the people who live in the city should have a voice, and that our voice should count. And unfortunately, that hasn't happened in the past. This is a next logical step in terms of allowing citizens to have a real voice and a real say in terms of how tax dollars are spent. And it's absolutely true what was said earlier, that in some cases, some neighborhoods get more attention than others. It's true, it doesn't make it right, And I think a process like this can certainly have a difference in terms of getting everybody involved and having more participation. It's very sad what happens in the city of Springfield when you have very heated elections, contested elections, both on the state level and the local level, and you end up getting a 25% voter turnout. I mean, that's just plain sad. And there's that level of apathy needs to change. And I think the more people get involved, through more representation, through participating, and having a real voice in how their money is spent, once that occurs, I think that the city will be much better for it, and I think citizens will be more involved, and I think the city will be better for it.
It's civic engagement in a disaffected age. Okay? If there's one thing that I see in the communities that I work in is a sense of, and it's not as harsh as this, but I'll call it a sense of hopelessness. People don't show up for meetings, and they don't create their own energy because they don't think it's going to go there because they went through the meetings. And so I think that regardless of the subject matter, whether it's the discretionary spending or the capital improvement plan or something else, it's the very fact that when you participate, you see an outcome. You need to have a transparent and a deep and a full process. You pull that off, and then you really get to my first point, civic engagement. You get civic engagement, and then you get people believing in your community again, and you get forward energy, and that cannot be stopped.
I'd love to hear more opportunities to really engage the youth. I think that's the idea, the concept that I want to kind of look at. And then also being an educator, being a parent, I think we have to look at our future generations and how we engage them and how we can look to the future.
Once people realize that there is some accountability built into the ward system, then they will re-engage. It takes a long time to become cynical, and it's going to take a little bit longer for people to really believe it makes a difference. I happen to be an optimist. I think there's winds of change in Springfield, and that if we really want to involve people in what they say makes a difference, and we express that people will participate.
I would look at the CDBG allocation and look at Hartford, at least puts that through the city council. Springfield, it's a prerogative of the mayor, and there's no review by council on the adoption of the grant. Hartford at least puts it through the city council, so there's public vetting of it.
I'm a social worker. That's what I do for a living. I believe in empowering people and having people make decisions that they affect for themselves and their communities. And so the concept, again, really is in line with my values.
My name is Alex Morris. I'm a candidate for mayor in the city of Holyoke. And I'm ready to update my website tonight and put a proposal for participatory budgeting, not because it will happen right away, but because I believe in the concept.